Hey, what up, y'all? What up? What up? Wait a minute, hold on. The hell? Okay, a little like EMS, whatever. I got a quick little clip here, and this is from Natalie Lawyer Check on YouTube. Let's get it.
Chloe Clay was a new attorney excited to help people that look like her.
To walk into a visiting cell and have someone's face light up and you haven't even said a word to them, but just because of your presence, like that's, I don't know. Like it makes me like almost want to cry just because it's like, that's the power of having representation, right?
Practicing for the public defender's office in the majority white Washington County, Oregon, Chloe was one of a few black attorneys in the area. Her dreams of being a helper, however, were crushed and tarnished by Deputy Lyle with the Washington County Sheriff's Office. The jury has awarded $800,000 between Chloe Clay and Aline Sanchez due to the racial discrimination of Deputy David Lyle. David Lyle is still employed by the Washington County Sheriff's Department. However, both Sanchez and Clay were made so uncomfortable that they no longer work in Washington County. This is the story. Hi, my name is Natalie. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and welcome to my channel. In today's video, we're
tap the screen, please. Tap the screen, please.
Public defenders who sued Washington County, Oregon, for racial discrimination and won. Both women worked as attorneys with the Metropolitan Public Defender's Office at the time of the incidents. They filed their lawsuits in late August of 2023. Clay alleges that David Lyle, a white Washington County Sheriff's Office deputy, was working as a court security officer and refused, delayed, and denied her access to a public courtroom while allowing white attorneys to enter the courtroom unimpeded. Clay alleges that on November 14th of 2022, she entered the law enforcement center shortly after 8:15 a.m. to pick up a plea petition from one of her clients who was in custody in the Washington County Jail and was set to represent her client at a 9 a.m. hearing. After noticing the jail lobby doors were locked, Clay says she walked to the LEC courtroom and asked Deputy Lyle to help and identified herself as an attorney. Lyle claimed he was busy and directed her to the public window next to the courtroom, where a staff member told her that a jail deputy was finishing their break and would return to the jail, according to court documents. After a deputy failed to show up at the jail, Clay returned to the LEC, where the courtroom is, nodded at Deputy Lyle, and entered the courtroom, leading the deputy to chase her and tell her she had to leave, the lawsuit claims. The deputy asked Clay, who has worked as a Metropolitan Public Defender since August of 2022, for ID to prove she was an attorney. The suit claims, noting Clay had previously been in the courtroom without being asked to prove that she was an attorney. According to court documents, the Oregon bar stopped issuing bar cards, so Clay offered to give Lyle her bar number. She alleges Lyle refused the offer and said because he didn't know her, she was not allowed to enter the courtroom, and ushered her out of the courtroom's breezeway and back into the hallway. The lawsuit claims that Deputy Lyle let Clay into the courtroom after a court interpreter who happened to walk by confirmed to the deputy that Clay was an attorney. Ms. Clay was upset, saddened, defeated, humiliated, and embarrassed following this encounter. She felt singled out because of her race. Her embarrassment was compounded because several other lawyers and members of the public witnessed this incident. The suit continues. That same morning, Ms. Clay saw at least 2 white attorneys freely walk into the LEC courtroom without being questioned, despite activating the metal detectors as they passed into the LEC courtroom. Deputy Lyle did not stop,
Thank you
require another
for liking the live. Tap the screen, please.
Either of these white attorneys. After Clay notified the Washington County Sheriff's Office of the incident in a tort claim, the agency reassigned Lyle to work as a security staff at the main Washington County courthouse. Clay alleges that after this incident, Lyle has glared at her in the courthouse. The lawsuit claims that over the last year, Other Black and brown professionals reported similar instances of discrimination by WCSO employees, including questioning who they were, being prevented from entering courtrooms, being asked if they were an interpreter, and being told they do not look like an investigator. These experiences demonstrate a pattern of practice of racial discrimination by Washington County employees against people of color in violation of the law. While attorneys and investigators entering the LEC facilities are not treated in the same discriminatory manner, the suit alleges. The second lawsuit was filed by Metropolitan Public Defender Aline Sanchez, who was Latina. Sanchez seeks $225,000 in damages from Washington County for unlawful discrimination in place of public accommodation. Her lawsuit claims Sanchez continues to face racial stigmatization, humiliation, and embarrassment. According to court documents, there were 3 separate incidents in which she was discriminated against in the Washington County Courthouse and the Washington County Communications Correction Center in December 2022 and January of 2023. Sanchez alleges that she was treated like an intruder, was refused access, questioned if she was an attorney, and claims that deputies failed to keep her safe when she was targeted by threatening hate speech by members of the Proud Boys in the courtroom. During these incidents, the suit claims that WCSO deputies allowed white attorneys to freely access courtrooms and the correction center, did not question them about their status as an attorney, and kept them safe when the need arose. According to court documents on December 7th of 2022, Sanchez notified a deputy at the entrance of the correction center that she was meeting with a client who was being held in county jail. The deputy allowed her into a meeting room to wait for her client, then asked if she had proof that she was an attorney, Sanchez claims. She argues that she gave the deputy one of her business cards and explained that there are no IDs issued to attorneys to prove they are attorneys. WCSO does not routinely require or ask attorneys who are meeting clients at the courthouse center to prove they are attorneys, according to the suit. During another incident on January 20th of 2023, Sanchez claimed she was scheduled to appear with her client in the LEC courtroom at 8:15 a.m. After briefly meeting with her client in the hallway, she tried to enter the courtroom. However, Deputy Lyle, here he comes again, stood in front of her to block her from entering the courtroom and stated in a raised voice that she could not go inside, Sanchez alleges. Sanchez explained to Deputy Lyle that she was an attorney and needed to enter the courtroom to check in with court staff. However, Lyle said she needed to wait until her name was called, the suit claims. Court documents state while she waited, Lyle let white attorneys enter the courtroom without questioning them or asking for proof that they were attorneys. Around 8:45 a.m., Sanchez explained to her supervisor and another public defender, Becca Blaney, that Lyle refused to let her in, court documents stated. Sanchez tried to enter the courtroom with Blaney. However, Deputy Lyle again stopped Miss Sanchez and stated she was an interpreter and pointed at her bag. Interpreters were not allowed to go inside the courtroom with bags, court documents claim. After Blaney corrected Lyle, stating Sanchez was an attorney, the deputy allowed her to enter the courtroom, the suit claims. A week later, on January 27th, Sanchez appeared in court between where a crowd of self-identified Proud Boys were making racist remarks, the suit alleges. According to court documents, when Proud Boys members observed Sanchez, they directed their threatening, racist remarks towards her. Ms. Sanchez felt unsafe as a result. Court documents claim at least one WCSO employee was in the courtroom and failed to intervene in the Proud Boys' threatening hate speech and didn't ask Proud Boys members to leave. Sanchez argues that deputies did not speak to her to ensure her safety. The suit says despite the sheriff's office receiving a prior complaint against Deputy Lyle, they failed to correct his conduct or prevent it from happening again, leading to discrimination against Sanchez. Her complaint sought $225,000 in damages, that's Sanchez, while Clay sought $375,000. The jurors ultimately awarded Sanchez $300,000, which is $75,000 more than she asked for, and Clay received $500,000, which is $125,000 more than what she asked for. While we are disappointed with the outcome, we remain dedicated to maintaining facilities that are safe, secure, and free from harassment and discrimination. In a joint statement, lawyers of the plaintiffs said the women were incredibly brave for advocating for equal treatment for professionals of color. Quote, until we notified County Council of our intent to sue, the Washington County Sheriff's Office did nothing to ensure a race-neutral entry policy, despite being aware legal professionals of color were being treated differently than their white counterparts. Attorneys Ethan Levy and Ashley Albies and Noah Hurst wrote in part, we hope the county takes the jury's unanimous verdict to heart and makes a public apology to Ms. Clay and Ms. Sanchez. Currently, no apology has been forthcoming. So these are actually not isolated incidents. To add some context to this, if you're not aware, I have been an attorney for about 15 years at this point in time. We are January 26th of 2026, so I've been an attorney. As a Black attorney, I have experienced being stopped by law enforcement in unfamiliar courtrooms and being told to leave because they assume that I am the defendant. I have personally seen white colleagues, white attorneys enter courthouses and jails without even being asked for their identification. Like in Oregon, just like in Oregon, in the state of Maryland, attorneys are not issued bar cards. You can join a bar association. Those are private organizations, and they can issue you a card to show that you're a member of the bar association, which would then likely mean that you're an attorney. But there's no official Maryland attorney identification card. Instead, just like the state of Oregon, attorneys have attorney identification numbers. There is a database where you can look up an attorney based on their attorney identification number. If this deputy, Mr. Lyle, was so concerned about the safety of these two women entering the courtroom, he could have looked them up by their attorney identification number. He could have taken Sanchez's business card and gone to her website to see whether or not she's an actual attorney. Instead, they were met with hostility and doubt. This is not an infrequent problem when people of color are practicing law. Actually, in my state of Maryland, a very similar incident has occurred. March 28th of 2019, New York Times posted an article about an attorney by the name of Rashad James. Rashad James is an attorney with Maryland Legal Aid, or at least he was back in 2019. He says he was detained in court by a deputy sheriff who did not believe he was a lawyer. A Black Maryland lawyer who was detained in court in March of 2019 by a deputy who thought he was a suspect masquerading as a lawyer filed a complaint with the Harford County Sheriff's Office this week, alleging the action was racially motivated. Mr. James appeared at a hearing at Harford County District Court on March 6th on behalf of a client who was not present. A sheriff's deputy approached Mr. James in the hallway after the hearing and called him by his client's name, according to the complaint. Mr. James corrected him and provided his driver's license to prove his identity, but the deputy was not convinced. He directed Mr. James to an interview room and detained him for 10 to 15 minutes. So I've actually met Rashad James before because this is the DC area, and I have seen him. I don't know him, but I've definitely seen him in court before. So it was kind of surreal where I was looking for other examples that had made the news, and it was an attorney that I actually have seen before because he practices in my state. Not at all uncommon. Many Black male attorneys in particular can share those types of experiences with you, especially if they're walking into a courthouse that they've never been in for the first time. Now, when I saw the case of Ms. Sanchez and Ms. Clay first reported back in 2023, you can go to some of the YouTube comments on it and see people saying, oh, well, they didn't have IDs. This isn't discrimination. What did they expect? First and foremost, they didn't need attorney IDs. They just need their attorney information number, their attorney identification number, and they can be confirmed that way. But also, the issue with discrimination is something called disparate treatment, meaning that one person is being treated one way and then another person is being treated a different way, and the only reason they're being treated that way is because of their race. If the white male attorneys are allowed to enter the courtroom without any questioning whatsoever, then there is no reason that the Black female attorney that he saw earlier that day, who asked him about client-related paperwork, should be detained and stopped and questioned and then chased out of the courtroom. She was chased out of the courtroom and told that she had to go. Miss Sanchez, who gave Deputy Lyle her business card, was then called an interpreter, right? And pointing at her suitcase and saying, you can't bring your suitcase in here because you're an interpreter. And then having to be corrected and vouched for by likely a white attorney so that she could be let into the courtroom. That is by default discrimination. If all the attorneys you let in are white and you only question the attorneys of color, you are committing discrimination.
Exactly.
If you're committing discrimination while acting as a state actor, you can face suit. But not only that, the county or the governmental body that you work for can also and will also be held liable.
Right.
The interesting thing here is that Deputy Lyle is still a sheriff's deputy with the Washington County Sheriff's Office, and he's not going to have to pay a dime for this. He keeps his job. He committed discrimination. The people that are going to have to pay are the taxpayers. So discrimination costs, but it really only costs the taxpayers. And, you know, we're lawyers. We can take care of ourselves. We're pretty tough, right? Most of the time, you're not hearing about these incidents because most attorneys of color don't even have the time in the day to bring a lawsuit and, file a complaint and follow up on these issues. And then also it's causes a rift and uncomfortableness that you don't want to deal with when you're going to work every single day. You're trying to take care of clients. You don't want yourself to become the focus. As you saw with Ms. Clay, she said that she felt like Deputy Lyle was staring her down after she filed her lawsuit. So certainly this is not something that attorneys ever want to get involved in. However, the discrimination is so bad that the two public defenders, Ms. Sanchez and Ms. Clay, no longer practice in Washington County. So they've lost two public defenders from Washington County because of the discrimination that they face. There really is no dollar amount on that, and I can see why the jury awarded them over what they requested. However, the $500,000 amount gets paid by the taxpayers. So the government gets to violate people's rights, and the people have to pay. I would love to know what you think in the comment section down below.
Sad but
Please
true.
like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you.
And that's it for this little clip. Thank y'all for being here, and I plan to see y'all again soon.